Hi, I'm Lauren Bryant, twin mum, event host, and award-winning small business specialist with a background in automotive and finance. I'm coming up to 10 years of Empower House, where I've helped hundreds of women streamline and scale their business. The greatest thing I've built, though, is an incredible community through my events, the Brunch Club. In over 70 live events, I've created thousands of connections and raised tens of thousands of dollars for charity. Most of all, I created a no-pressure networking space for women to feel seen, heard, and supported. This podcast is an extension of that, where I can share what I've learned, bring amazing speakers to share their story, and keep living the Empower House values: community, empowerment, and education. If you are an ambitious woman in business, welcome. This is for you.
Today on the podcast, we are joined by Alexandra Finch, who is a private midwife, a midwife mentor, podcaster, the owner of La Loba Herbalism, and Rise and Gather Co., and co-creator of the Women's Wellness Festival. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I know there's been a lot of changes for you lately. So would you like to tell us a bit about yourself and what's happening in your life and your businesses?
Yeah, sure. So I became a privately practicing midwife about 14 years ago in Ipswich, Queensland, in a local community. And I would say that experience was really life-changing for me. I absolutely adore that job and I'm still working as a private midwife on call, predominantly in the home setting now, and I mentor other midwives. Everything that's developed over a period of time has just really come from my love of relating with women and being connected to them in such a transformative time of their lives. Also from having repeat clients, so they see me for their first, second, third, fourth, and even a fifth time. It's just been so wonderful. And I've always been mentored really well. So I was treated extremely well as a student, and I will never forget that. And same when I went into private practice, I had the most amazing mentors. I am still in contact with them to this day, and it made such a huge difference. And I really feel, at this season in my life and my career, that I really wanted to do the same thing, but in my way, because obviously the landscape has changed a lot with online platforms. So I feel like really in the last 4 years, taking over that New Life business has really up-leveled me in a way where it's kicked my butt in a lot of ways, because the midwifing is easy, business not so much. So I've had to really pivot and draw on, different coaches and mentors and different modalities to support me through that, and also my own evolution of, leaving my current community and making another community on the Gold Coast. So there's a lot happening. And my friend just said today, you just need to own the fact that you've kind of pivoted into being an entrepreneur, because I was like, oh, what do I call myself? And I was like, well, I am a midwife, but there's just so many other things, and I do love to create, but it's really come from networking with women, sitting in circle with women a few years ago, just as me, and being around other women from all walks of life. You also learn that they do the most amazing things. They have generally corporate jobs, and they're really doing something as a side hustle, just out of a passion, something that they've learned in life, and they just want to share it with others. And so I've just really loved listening and being exposed to all of that. And that's where it just continues on. Like, ask me in 6 months and something else will have changed.
Yeah, it's so true. What were the signs for you to start pivoting with your business? I know you've got multiple things going on, so let's start at the beginning of your private midwifery. So what was it that came up for you when you decided that you needed to pivot away from what you were doing and get into the private midwifery, and then also have the festival and also have an e-com brand and all of that sort of stuff all at once?
Okay, so the pivot point came, I was about 28 years old at the time, and I used to be a journalist, and it just really wasn't what I imagined for myself. I really wanted to do that kind of save the world journalism and make a difference. So that's been inside of me since about 8 years old. So I did do that. I did some television. I did do some TV journalism and I loved it, but it just wasn't working out the way that I thought. And it was pure intuition that I wanted to pivot on a career change. I wanted to have another baby, and, you know, they wanted to send me to different regional bureaus. It just wasn't going to work. And so I kind of just fell into midwifery because I loved following a friend while she was pregnant. My mum was a nurse, my sister's a nurse. It's not nursing, but it did feel quite nurturing and I just felt drawn to it. 6 months into that, I met a clinical facilitator who just really opened my eyes. I read some books, Spiritual Midwifery, The Politics of Birth, Birth Reborn. And having been a mother already myself and not knowing any of these things, it just blew my mind, and that just changed the whole trajectory for me. So I'm really passionate about continuity of midwifery care. There's 20 years worth of research to show that it has better outcomes for mums and babies. Women are more satisfied with their care. So I just immersed myself in that as a student. Again, had really amazing mentors. There were privately practicing midwives who were new in our community as a new grad. And I've always been different in the fact that I am not afraid to not just go along with the norm. I'll just follow my heart, follow my intuition and what feels right and what I feel passionate about. And I really believe in that and following my heart. And it just worked out so beautifully. My whole career, I've been mentored really well. I was able to read books, listen to women, observe women in labor. And then that led me to develop a certain style of education. And so I've done things like neuro-linguistic programming, kinesiology, and I just kept drawing on all these other modalities, neuroscience. And I was like, I see this all the time. I listen to women all the time, and they just became so useful as I just keep walking on my path. Now, it wasn't really until about 4.5 years ago where my mentors decided to retire. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do anything else. So I just bought the business with a friend who was working there at the time. And I guess I would just describe it as something that just was there inside of me and suddenly just opened up. It's like someone just turned me around and was like, oh, here's a whole nother level of creation for you, right? And so I didn't understand at the time that I'm a visionary. So all of the structural stuff was really much harder for me, and probably my downfall is not realizing that even as like a CEO, you still really need to understand the basics of those structures and have an idea. So there was a lot of lessons I needed to learn in that and not just be kind of flinging around in my feminine creating things. And so my business partner and I went to a free business education sessions that were put on for 12 months by the local city council. And there it was actually that I really connected with, I believe, you know, Loz.
Yes.
Yeah. So she was our coach once a month and also an amazing network of women. And that's where I became really open to all this networking. But again, I'm really drawn to relationships and connections. And also my whole career, I also have clients who I'm like, oh, she'd make really good friends with her. And then I used to see them in postpartum groups connecting. They'd be lifelong friends. So I'm a bit of a connector as well. And then a couple of years went on, maybe 18 months. And one of my previous clients, she also loved the postpartum group. She was my client. She was really missing the community. And she's like, I wish there was a community. We talked about an expo, and then we just birthed the festival having a conversation about mental health and support. And for myself, I just started doing women's circles. And I was like, holy shit, this is life changing. You know, not just what I got out of it for myself, but sitting in circle and listening to other people's stories and really seeing how amazing they are and how we could support each other. And so we started the Women's Wellness Festival in Ipswich. It started in Marburg, a tiny little town off a motorway. And it's just grown every year. The community has really bought into it. And then I've just met the most incredible humans. And I feel like just meeting people and networking and learning, just my brain just explodes and explodes, and we're creating another thing. But again, bringing in the right people for those structures. So we now have Rise and Gather Co. And that's also my project manager, COO actually, and business partner in that. She's amazing at what she does. She's run a multi-million-dollar business herself. She's got her own company now. And honestly, just knowing that those structures are taken care of, but also working to our strengths, it's a completely different feeling now. I feel like I'm just doing business properly from the ground up instead of just kind of creating it and chasing my tail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So did I cover everything? I was like, what other things do I do?
Yeah. We've got Laloba Herbalism as well. I see you've got many different tools.
Yes. Okay. So yes, juicy tools. The year that we started the festival, I read Women Who Run with Wolves. I turned 40 that year and I read this book and I was like, oh my goodness, like it's just speaking to me. Every woman needs to read this book. I really resonated with the story of Laloba. So I basically just went on the hunt for Laloba as a brand name for something. And I came across this business, e-commerce business that sells pleasure products and women's wellness and hygiene products. And no joke, I just saw a story that said Laloba is for sale and I couldn't get it out of my mind. And I just thought, oh, stuff it. I'm just going to reach out to her. And there's this beautiful woman, young woman who lived on the Gold Coast, who started this company for everything that she needed on her health, wellness, pleasure journey. And we connected. She's my people. She wanted to do more face-to-face stuff. I was at a phase where I have a lot of face-to-face and I needed less face-to-face, but I just really wanted this company. It felt right. And yeah, probably 6 months later, we transitioned into taking that over. I ended up taking that over by myself because it just felt like our partnership wasn't right for that. I don't know why, other than I just felt that. And again, like getting my butt kicked in e-commerce, and I was getting coaching at the time, which helped a lot. But what I've also realized is my pattern, my whole life is chronic overachieving. Same story with a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm sure. But I've really done a lot of work through somatic coaching, family constellation, kinesiology, and bit by bit by bit, since I was 28 years old, I just learnt more about who I am and letting those pieces and parts that have really armored up through life melt away. And I realized that my ego was very good at wrapping up all of these beautiful projects in a pretty little bow, saying, oh, but it's helping other people. And so I am currently still in the process of unraveling that and just going one step at a time. And because it's like the jack of all trades, master of none feeling. And I didn't want to have the energetics of that in my businesses anymore. So it's really painful to have to let Laloba's kind of sitting over here and ticking along nicely, but there's no email marketing in it right now. And I'm not super promoting that because I know that, you know, kind of once that takes off, I just don't have the structures in place yet to grow that business. So I'm giving it the love that I have capacity to give it while I set up this new midwifery business that I have from scratch and put the love and the care into the structures of that, getting some support. I've had a beautiful admin for many, many years, and not having an admin in person is a very big transition, and just realizing where I need support and paying for that support. I do have a midwife working for me that I'm mentoring, and that's amazing. And making sure that, you know, that's my number one job, is for my face-to-face midwife clients. When something's going on with them, they're my top priority. And then kind of just structuring it so that I have the time that I need for each. One has to be prioritized over the other, and getting support for that, you know. So there's a lot of things that come up when we feel like we're failing, not doing good enough, fear of being seen, you know, even my business transition at the moment and ending new life, there really is no shame in that. It's just a season ending. And but it's just so big. And really, I have actually given that some big space that it needs, rather than going, oh, let's do this event, or like, yeah, I'm going to sign up for that because my friend has free tickets. And I've just really sitting and noticing those patterns and just taking a back seat and just noticing and just moving along one step at a time in this kind of new, slower identity. It's really hard to even say slower, more mindful and more considered identity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How are you managing your energy and your focus between those? Do you have daily practices, or do you schedule out your week so you're spending time here and that? And I know you've got multiple businesses and then your mum as well. You've got so many things going on. So what are you doing that's keeping your energy and your focus where it needs to be day to day, week by week, month by month?
That's a really good question. I feel like that's forever a work in progress as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know much about human design, but I'm really fortunate to know a lot about mine. It's a generator. It's always about forward movement, but also I don't like too much repetition of the same thing every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to have the creativity in my weekly schedule. I do have some structures around seeing clients on certain days. So I like to see face-to-face clients Tuesdays and Thursdays, sometimes on Monday, depending on my week. That has been really hard for me because that was actually boundary setting. So when I would have clients, I'd see them kind of any day, Monday to Thursday. And then I realized that just the energy required to do face-to-face clients, even if it's just one, that's a larger portion of my day taken up, and it's just very disjointed. So it was really about me feeling confident to say that this is the days that I work. And women who want to have me as their midwife are quite happy with that. It's a non-issue. So that was a me thing. That's actually working out really well. I'm also still traveling back to Ipswich just to service my repeat clients up there and also see the lovely midwife that works for me. But I do have a community up there, and I just kind of check in with myself. I know what alignment and happiness feels in my body, and I know what doesn't. So I really just spend some time with that. And does this feel good? Does it not? If it doesn't, just change it. I have some incredible 11 out of 10 friends around me who are on similar paths, hold me accountable, make really beautiful suggestions. I feel also very well resourced. So if I am struggling, I will seek help. Day to day, I feel like I just have this thing where if I'm too much in my masculine, I have this get really tense in my traps. So if I know I'm sitting at my computer and I'm doing that in that moment, do I have to be really doing this right now? Is it urgent? If not, drop it. I also live on the beach, like I'm looking at the ocean here. So I made a really big decision to relocate and invest in my physical environment. And that makes a huge difference. Like I go outside for a walk in the morning. I sit outside. I drink my coffee outside. It's the first thing I like to do is go outside in the morning. I would really like to get back into the gym. That's my fitness identity over the last 4 years has been left to the side. It's not prioritized, and I really miss that. And I'm just getting back into that now. So stay tuned. I definitely don't have it down pat, but I have got a lot more self-compassion for when I don't get it right.
That's amazing. What a beautiful way to start the day too, looking at the ocean.
Oh, honestly, my nervous system is just so much better just by being here.
Yeah, I have no doubt. Welcome to the Gold Coast, by the way. How
Thank
fun.
you.
We've spoken a little bit about you having a community. What is your biggest piece of advice for other people to build a community that's so engaging, but also so nurturing and supportive from scratch? Because that's what you've done as well.
I feel like the ability to do that is more the work that I've done on myself, but I would say it comes from fertile listening, just listening to other people's experiences and making connections. I think is super important. So, even when people feel anxious coming to a brunch club, that's a really good sign that you're just pushing through a bit of a comfort zone. And on the other side of that is absolute magic. Like, really stepping out, meeting new people, like-minded people, and just it takes on its own life form. Honestly, it's been connecting with other women in various communities. It just has its own life form. I don't know if you would agree with that, but
Yeah.
it's nothing that I do on purpose. I'm just being me. But then when you're in your heart space and you're genuinely connecting with another human, I've never had a bad experience. It just goes from there, really. It's organic.
Yeah, that's for sure. I've always approached networking, especially hosting networking events, as like people coming to dinner. And that's kind of how I want them to feel, is like they're in my house and I'm going to do anything I can to make sure that you're comfortable and, fed, watered, and happy. So that's my approach to it. And I don't know, kind of worked. 8 years down the track, it's still working. So,
Oh, wow.
it's pretty fun.
Yeah, 8 years is amazing. And I feel like, if you can just put yourself in an environment, and have an open heart, it's just, you
Yeah.
get to really see people. And also, don't be frightened when you meet someone else that does the same thing as you. I feel like that's my biggest lesson as well, is no one is you, and you have your flavor on what you do. And so as women, I feel like that's our biggest sisterhood wounding, is that kind of sense of competition. We don't need to be like that. We can celebrate each other, because it's like women who choose their own midwife. There's so many women out there. You're not the person for everyone. And at the end of the day, you want your clients to want you. And you might have the same or similar skills to somebody else, but it's still not you and your flavor. And so just trust that the right people will come to you. And once you kind of are really confident in that, and you don't see people as competition, you see them as colleagues, I really feel like there's a lot of magic in that as well.
You talk a lot about women being the ultimate authority on their bodies, and obviously that comes with the midwifery space. But how do we bring that same deep trust, self-trust, into our businesses and our lives, making major decisions like moving 2 hours away from everything that you've built?
That's a really good question. I just ran a class on autonomy and what it really means to be autonomous, and that's that felt sense in your body. So a lot of women in particular just overthinking everything, what's the right decision. I've done exactly the same thing. It was one of my patterns for such a long time. As soon as I identified someone as the expert in their field, was completely outsourcing. And so my beautiful coach, you probably know Diane McKendrick. I've outsourced to her a lot in her coaching container, and she really helped me to see that. And so ever since then, and doing a lot of family constellation work, I understand my body's own cues of, does this feel good, does it not? I am highly intuitive and energetic anyway, but I do know the difference now between a little bit of frantic energy and calm energy. And that's where I say, like, with that autonomy, it's not just, something, we know it's something we feel, and it's the alignment of the thoughts and the feelings. And so women know that, but until they also have an experience of that modeled, it is actually really hard. I have a lot of women who come to me and it's almost like, oh, you're not telling me what to do. And I'm like, well, no, that's not our job as healthcare providers. I'm a subject matter expert, but I'm not a woman's expert on her own body. I need that feedback from her and how she's feeling and what's safety to her. I'm not to tell her, you must do this. This is what's going to keep you safe. We can never say that for sure. No one's got a crystal ball. So it's the same thing for women at every phase in their life. Young women going to the doctor, oh, I've got a painful period here, you need to take this, with no other information other than that. It's not informed decision making. And when we go in there and we're just stuck in our heads about it, and we go in and we outsource without having a felt sense, is this right? Do I have any questions? That's not really autonomy. And so having that felt sense of autonomy is so important.
Yeah, definitely. I want to speak to you a little bit more about the women's womb health and all of that sort of La Loba field. You talk a lot about the wild woman and the womb health, and how can we as entrepreneurs, whether you relate to that or not, who is completely stuck in our head rather than in the body, how can we reconnect with the body and get more familiar with making those decisions based on how we feel, not just how we think?
Great question. I just felt myself take a really big deep breath when you said that. Always the breath, because a lot of us, and I do it too, like we're so tense. And so coming back to breath is really important. Honestly, small, consistent actions over time. It doesn't look like making a schedule where, okay, I'm going to get up at 5:30 and I'm going to do yoga for an hour and then I'm going to journal and this, that, and the other. It's really just having a read, do you know the book Atomic Habits?
Yes.
Amazing book. So really understanding how brains function, you really have to have a good understanding of self. So maybe what is my human design? What is my natal chart? What feels good, what doesn't? And where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? And the brain wants to find the path of least resistance. So where can you fit in these small, consistent, daily, second daily actions into your life in a way that works? Because as chronic overachievers, what we often do is I will look at you and you and how you run the brunch club and pick your most perfect ways of doing things. And then that lady over there, she gets up in the morning and she does this and I'm going to pick her perfect points. And then I've just created this really unrealistic, perfect person and way of doing things because it's not actually who I am or work with, what I've got. So it's really just picking what resonates. So if you say you go out and you have yoga, you have gym, you have walking, Pilates, journaling, cards, all of the things, you might think, oh, that doesn't apply to me. It doesn't feel good. So it's like, oh no, it doesn't really resonate with me. Or oh, yeah, I really want to do that. But it might look different day to day as well. It's just really small moments, but it's so important to breathe and sit and feel your body in your chair. There are womb healing exercises that you can do. So visualizations, meditations, facilitated groups that connect you to your womb. The womb is our life force. It's important for everyone, even if a woman has had a hysterectomy, there's the energy of the womb inside of her. We came into this world through the womb. It is so important. And even as a midwife and a woman, I don't think I did a womb healing until maybe 3 years ago. And I was looking around, I was like, I haven't even turned the light switch on in this place. How is that possible? And being able to see what's in there. Sometimes there's things in there that don't belong there. We hold trauma there. We need to clear that space. It's just a place that we really overlook because we just get too busy and we've got this level of toxic resilience and overachieving and we're just go, 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 go. And most often helping other people, but really just working on ourselves. And we can tune into that just by lying there and putting your hand on your womb and having a visualization and just connecting to your breath into your womb. Just something as simple as that.
Mm. And how does leaning into the pleasure and our natural cycles and all of that help us run our businesses and improve our lives in general?
Well, as women, we're very cyclic beings. Even women who are going through perimenopause and have gone through menopause, women are just like this, men, they're just the same day in, day out. One of the beautiful teachings that I have become familiar with in the last few years is the seasons of matrescence. So matrescence is the term for everyone postpartum, basically. And so it's similar to adolescence. It can be a very tumultuous time. It's the season. So summer, autumn, winter, spring. And for example, women who have just had a baby, they're in their winter season. So they need a lot of nurturing and cocooning and love and support to come through the other side. Because, if we're really honest with ourselves, sometimes we feel really down and flat and we don't really understand why. And we don't spend enough time sitting in that and understanding what that might mean for us. But also, we can hold that and we can also hold joy and keep doing life. It looks different for everyone, but we only know what we know. So understanding the seasons of matrescence will help. Diane McKendrick has been an amazing coach and has incorporated the seasons of business. And so she looks at it like there's a seed and then a sapling and how that actually grows, and looking at what you actually need in each season. So if you're a lotus, you're in like maximum growth, you're kind of an expert in your field. But then there's certain points in your business where you do something new, you go back to a seedling again. So that would be similar to a winter, hibernating and things like that. So women definitely understanding their seasons and cycles is really important. There's Jane Hardwick Collins. She's from Northern New South Wales. She's an elder, used to be a midwife. She does a lot of womancraft. It's something that's not overly common in our Western society. It's something that we've really lost. And so I would highly suggest starting to dabble in things like that, because reconnecting with your womanhood and incorporating some rituals and just have an understanding of how your body even functions, just like labor and birth. Sometimes we just don't even understand there's different phases in our cycles, what they mean. We don't understand what matrescence is. And also, we're not meant to do it alone. Having a really beautiful community of women, small or large, that's what we're born to be, in connection with others. And that's something that's really changed my life. I think I've been fiercely independent my whole life as a young mom, but that's something that I've really embraced and something that's so incredibly meaningful to me.
Yeah, definitely. For the new mums, or the mums who are currently, they're building something new, like a new business, and they're feeling overwhelmed by that juggle between mum, business, maybe still part-time work or something like that, what practical systems do you have to keep you from burning out?
I feel potentially I didn't have systems when I was younger. So my biggest lesson, my kids are now nearly 23 and 17. And if I was to go back and have my time again, I would definitely have put the brakes on all of that, and thinking, I had to work, had to provide, I wanted to improve in my job and really struggled with balance at times. I feel like it's really different for everyone. Definitely support, support, support. Not doing it alone, and actually investing in people that can support you. So whether it's a coach, counseling, a network of mum friends, especially when you've got kids who are in a smaller school age, toddlers. Definitely, that's my biggest takeaway that I've seen from groups of mums, is where they really come together and they might do each other's school pickups, drop offs. Someone can mind another kid. Like, that's actually so invaluable. And definitely looking at what structures they need to put in place, because that's probably something that I've had to learn the hard way.
Do you feel like your motherhood journey has shaped the way that you set boundaries or say no in business, and to opportunities that maybe don't suit you or serve you?
It definitely has now, because as a younger mum, I just was, as a younger mum, I was chronically high achieving unconsciously. And so because I was doing a job where I was helping people and I was on call, it was like, oh, but it's for birth, it's for birth, it's for birth. And birth is the only thing that should interrupt my family time. But it started to trickle into other things. And I feel like being on the other side, where your children are older and suddenly you realize how quickly that time has gone by, I'm like, oh, now I'm going to do things differently. And that's with very much my grandmother energy, because I thought, if I continue this way for another 10 years, my daughter may have children and I'm still going to be in this position and not be available. What is really most important to me, and that is to definitely be there as a grandmother. I see my mum doing that and she's living her best life. She's not an entrepreneur. She doesn't have millions of dollars, but for her, that's alignment, and she's got what she needs, and she's just living her best life because she gets to go and see everyone that she loves at any given time, and she's just enjoying her life. And I see that modeled, and I want to do that in my own way.
That's wonderful. I love the grandmother energy. I haven't thought about that before. Is that What influenced you to have some time away from private midwifery for a minute?
Definitely, I was really looking for, well, I have to confess, I'm not really on long service leave because New Life has closed. It closed probably 6 months earlier than what I had anticipated. So I'm finding myself not away overseas for a month like I thought. However, that just is what it is. And I have really fought my ego on that and looking for places to go. But then I realized I live in one of the most beautiful places on earth. And maybe this is my time to just be here, slow down, and just be in my ordinary life without going on an extravagant trip, without being on call for births, because I don't have another lady due until about the 20th of July. So for me, having even just a month off and then in the background quietly chipping away at all of my structures so that when women keep birthing again, all of my structures are in place. So that's actually what I'm doing. So I am on leave technically, and having a break from appointments for a couple of weeks, but I am still kind of working in the background, I guess, as we all do as business owners, but it's just got a really different energy about it.
Yeah, for sure. Making sure that it all flows and will eventually make your life easier on the other end of it. It's just a big
Yes.
project.
Yes. And I feel like a lot better forward planning. So already I'm booked until March and next year. And so I was like, okay, what do I want? And I promised myself once I move down here, I was like, I've always lived somewhere else because I was following, my girl's dad because he was in the military and I got a job where he was. And then we moved back to Brisbane and then I moved to Ipswich because that's where the private practice was. And I was like, I love the ocean. I want to be here. Why do I have to wait until I retire? So that's why I moved here. And I just promised myself every single time I walk on that beach, lifestyle first. And so that's what I will be doing next year is just penciling in 2 months off, structuring my business so that it can support me to do that in advance.
Amazing. That sounds wonderful to me.
Thank you.
What a dream. Do you want to talk about how a business owner, a woman in business, can tell the difference between the normal day-to-day tiredness and a deeper sign that maybe it's time to completely pivot or rest or move because you love the ocean and you're not near it?
Oh, yes, definitely. I feel like burnout is really problematic in midwifery in particular. It doesn't matter if you're working in the hospital or in the home setting, they're just burnout for different reasons. It's really that sense of waking up tired every day, no matter how much sleep you get. Also, if you work face to face with people and you feel like you're not hearing things properly, if you're a little bit snappier at your kids, I just feel like it's just a sense of being out of alignment, but the way that it presents itself to me might be different for someone else. I would say it's really abnormal fatigue where it doesn't matter how much sleep I get. It's really hard to open my eyes in the morning. I'm waiting for that first coffee to kind of wake myself up. I start to let my meals slide during the day because I'm too busy to eat, things like that, and start like the self-care starts to go. And also some thought patterns for me. I can be an anxious thinker at different times. So if I notice some more negative loop patterns in particular, I'm not doing a good job at this or I'm not doing a good job at that, that's also my cue. I also have an issue where I start to have a little bit blurry vision. So not while I'm driving, but I might be reading or whatever. And that's my sign where I'm like, oh, I've pushed it a little bit too far. So thankfully it doesn't come that often now, but I did identify that in my line of work where I am on call, that every 6 months I need at least 3 weeks off. That's a good reset for me. That's just something that took time. And obviously I have much better awareness about my own body cues now. So that's something that I would highly recommend is, if you really don't have an idea about how to drop into your body, anything somatic, and whether it needs to be facilitated in a group or one-on-one, and just really start to reconnect with the your body and the sensations in your body is just invaluable.
You've spoken a few times about books that you've been reading and that they've changed your life and everything. Do you have some recommendations for us?
Oh, so many.
Tell
Okay,
them
well,
all.
I am a huge Brené Brown addict. I feel like you cannot go wrong reading like all of them. It depends on what you need. I choose my books intuitively. So there's The Gifts of Imperfection. That is a Brené Brown one that is an absolute must, because sometimes the hardest thing is to take a look at those little pieces and parts of ourselves and go and collect her and bring her back to where we are. Sometimes it feels really confronting, and there's, a lot of shame there, and, we just need a little bit more support for those things. But The Gifts of Imperfection, 100%. Diary of a CEO. I only read that probably 6 months ago. That's amazing. The Secret Language of Your Body, also amazing, because sometimes the sore parts that we get on our bodies have an emotional component to that. That's really an important one. I'm just looking at my bookshelf. What else? Oh, there's a lot of Brené Brown. Oh, How to Do the Work. That's another important one. Homecoming, that's amazing. I feel like it would be really useful if people could read it before their parents, but before we become parents. But, we only know what we know. And also there's a book called It Didn't Start With You. So family constellation is something that I started to get into a few years ago for myself. And my friend is a facilitator, and it was just amazing. I was so blown away by what you can actually take a look at and move through. And so I actually studied that last year because I apply everything to birth and was seeing a lot with my clients. And so family constellation is something I'm very passionate about, one-on-one and in groups. So It Didn't Start With You is a really good book to understand that sometimes when the feelings or the thoughts are really disproportionate to what is happening, it's actually something that's going on with the wider family system, because we know epigenetically that we carry the DNA of 7 ancestors, but we also have a nervous system memory. So sometimes something can happen and it's not even traumatic, but, 6 ancestors back, we probably didn't even live in this country. There's wars going on, there's genocide, and there's poverty. There's so much in our family lines. And so sometimes it just feels really overwhelming in our own system, and there's ways of looking at that. So that's a really great book as well.
So interesting to think about too, where your ancestors were and the things that they went through.
Yeah.
Speaking about legacy, you've got your own children. What is the ultimate legacy that you want to leave behind for them?
That they love themselves more than anyone else, that they are capable of anything, that they know they're not alone, and that they know that they're so deeply loved and honored. And just my whole life goal. Someone asked me once, what was my life goal? If I could have anything, what would it be? And it would be to be a great grandmother. I had a great grandmother until I was 19 years old, and another beautiful grandmother. And I just connect so strongly with that essence and the feeling I get when, I think about my children and them having children. And and watching my mum be a grandmother, it's just the most beautiful thing. And I just think if I can have anything in this lifetime, that would have to be it. And so all of the decisions that I do make in business now are coming from that energy. What would my future self say about that? What love and support would she give me? And so I would very much love for my children to have so much compassion for themselves, but especially other humans, and, treat everyone with dignity. And I feel like when you follow your heart, everything else just falls into place. So the more you connect with the pieces and parts of yourself, and the more you just keep working on it and you follow that, I just feel like you can't go wrong in business, really, truly.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Beautiful answers. My goodness. Okay. I have an exercise, a
Ooh.
connection exercise from the Brunch Club. I
Mhm.
have these connection questions. They're on silver cards when you're at an event, but I've chosen 3 for you to answer. So here we go. Your first question is, if you could instantly become an expert in anything, what would it be and why?
I feel like I would really love to be an elder, wise woman who holds circles and drummings and teaches women of all ages, like young to old, all the things about womancraft. Basically, Jane Hardwick Collins. That would be like, if I could be her level of expertise about that, that would absolutely be amazing. I would love that. Ritual expert, all of that complete woo woo. Love it.
Beautiful. You have a magical hot tub and you can invite 3 people, living or dead. Who do you invite and why?
I'd have to invite a grandmother, Brene Brown. This is really hard. Maybe my younger self.
Oh, I've never heard that answer before. That's cute.
That's really hard. I know so many amazing people. So that's a tricky one.
You can talk to them all the time. That's perfect. Okay, last question. You've written a worldwide best-selling book. What is the name of it and what is it about?
Heart-led midwifery.
Perfect.
That is, yeah. So very much I'm very much about the experiential midwifery. So there's an element of understanding recent research. There's some amazing midwifery colleagues, internationally and nationally, who have podcasts and resources to compile research. I am really more of an Ina May Gaskin. So she's like an 85-year-old midwife from the States who has just been doing midwifery for a really long time. And she writes about her experiences, and very much that is how my knowledge of midwifery has grown, is from each and every woman that I've observed and sat with. And so I see birth as a very physiological event. Sometimes it needs medical assistance for sure. But when you have the presence of safety and love and connection with a woman and she's in her body, she's going to make the best decisions throughout our pregnancy. She's going to be the most proactive and have a much better experience. And so I look at physiology like it keeps women safe. So preventing things from going wrong, basically. And I do talk a lot in case studies, actually, when I'm teaching or speaking with women. And that is definitely what my book is about, is that the midwifery wisdom that comes from practicing from the heart, but also drawing on other modalities. That's something that the midwifery profession doesn't do very well. There's well researched, there's lots of experts and articles in neuroscience, nervous system regulation, gosh, trauma, family constellation, epigenetics. There's so many sciences that give me a vocabulary for what I have experienced. So it's kind of like a bundle of all of those things.
Amazing. Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, exciting.
Is there anything else that you would like to add that we haven't already covered today?
No, just encourage women to go and join networks and sit in circle with other women. Honestly, it will change your life.
Yeah, beautiful. And for everybody that wants to connect with you, where can they find you?
Okay, so I am Alexandra Finch on Instagram. Please check out Rising Gallico. Not only will we have a festival, but we have other community events, which we will also be bringing down to the Gold Coast now that I am here. Women's Wellness Festival. So that is on in October 17, 18. So if you are a facilitator, healer, speaker, and you want to be involved, please check that out. Applications are actually opening on the winter solstice. So keep an eye out for that, or might want to be an attendee. And also Your Birth Your Way _ also on Instagram, and the Your Birth Your Way website will be launching on July 1st.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing everything today. You have been an incredible guest.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I hope you loved this episode. If you did, please remember to share it with somebody else who you think will enjoy it too. I would love it if you leave a review, which helps me reach more people just like you. And don't forget to come and join me on Instagram at empower.health. Thank you, darling.